There's a very big difference between low carb and keto. And somewhere along the lines, everything gets blurred and gets a little bit confusing. I'm Thomas DeLauer with Cauliflower Foods. I'm going to clear up the misconceptions and the confusion behind the low carb diet versus the keto diet. So of course the low carb diet and the keto diet both imply that you're going to be on lower amounts of carbohydrates. But where the differences really lie is in how far you push it with the low carb, but also the implementation of the proper fats. You see, here's what happens when you go on a low carb diet. You go on a low carb diet and you cut out your carbohydrates a little bit, just enough to be considered low carb. The problem is you don't go low enough to actually allow the ketones to come in and do their thing. You see, what I mean by that is when you restrict your carbohydrates to a pretty extreme level, your body has no choice but to start producing what are called ketone bodies. It's these ketone bodies that provide you with energy, provide you with clarity, provide you with the ability to burn more fat, but most importantly, provide you with the sanity so you don't feel like you're starving all the time. So what happens if you don't cut out the carbs enough is then you hover in what I call the gray area, the low carb gray area, where you've restricted calories and you've restricted carbs just enough to feel foggy and feel fatigued and feel kind of lame, but not far enough to actually allow the body to produce ketones. You see, there's a very fine line between when your body stops utilizing carbs as a fuel source and starts using fat. And if you hover right at that line, just above that line in the low carb threshold, but not quite the keto threshold, you're just running on very, very, very limited amounts of fuel. So the way that I've described it before is like a fuel tank in a car, and an old car at that. So my family always taught me to never let the gas tank get super low. Why? Because at the bottom of the gas tank is a bunch of sludge, and it can clog your lines, it can make it so the car or the vehicle doesn't operate well. Your body, in some ways, is similar. You have this nice amount of carbohydrates that are providing you energy, but then you start restricting your carbohydrates, and then you restrict them more and more and more and more. And then you're right at the bottom of your tank. You have just enough carbohydrates to provide you with energy, so you're technically not in ketosis, but not enough restriction to put you into that next phase. So you're running at the bottom of the tank where all the sludge is. That's why you feel so foggy and feel so lame. If you were to just push it a little bit further and increase your fats, then you'd be in a situation where you're in keto and you're no longer having to abide by the sludge rule. You throw that tank out altogether and you start running on a whole separate fuel source. So it's like you have a big tank of gasoline, which is your carbohydrates, and another fuel tank, which is jet fuel. But you can't magically access that jet fuel until you drain the gasoline. Gasoline gives you energy, but jet fuel gives you more energy. So if you're sitting at the bottom of your gasoline tank, you're just running on sludge and you're never getting the opportunity to truly use the jet fuel that's there. The keto diet is different from low carb because you actually push it through that threshold and break in to the jet fuel. Big, big difference. Now, when it comes to utilizing Cauliflower Foods, they look after both equations. See, here at Cauliflower, we're looking after the people that are doing low carb and the people that are doing keto. Sure, cauliflower pizza crust will work for low carb. They're definitely low calorie enough, they're definitely low carb enough. But I encourage you to put the higher fat toppings on it. Enjoy the pepperoni, enjoy some of the meats, enjoy the cheeses that are gonna get your fats up so that your cauliflower crust pizza actually helps you get into that keto state, not just in that low carb state. And that's also the difference between Atkins and keto. That's another question that comes up a lot. Atkins is the low carb state, keto is the keto state. Don't get them confused, they're very different. So as always, make sure you're keeping it locked in here with Cauliflower Foods, and I will see you in the next video.